Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 166 of Cognitive. I am recording this here in the Study of Love on Monday night, January 22nd, 2024 at 7:52 p.m. Let's get rolling, shall we? First thing, I know you've all been wondering about my candles, so I put in a picture of one of them burning. That is my father in the picture next to it, and I'm rather enjoying the fact that it's burning very evenly. This bunch of candles have been very, very satisfying to use. I experimented for the first time with putting a double wick and a triple wick in some of them. It works, what can I say? And of course, I've also been playing around with the cat memes this week, and I had to admit I saw the one that's right under the picture of Dad in the candle, and it's a tabby cat, looking smug as they do, saying, "Don't be part of the problem, be the entire problem." Let me tell you, if you knew my father, that was the perfect one. In the meantime, I'd like you to know that your comments and responses are very welcomed and enjoyed. You can comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com with a K in the knit of cognitive. Or you can comment on our group on Ravelry, which I think is just called Cognitive. It might be Cognitive Podcast. You know how to find it. Y'all can navigate Ravelry. That's what I love about you. In the warm thanks department, well, I have a lot of thanks this week, I have to tell you. First of all, it was great to hear from Tiny Shiny Things again, because I genuinely enjoyed TST's comments. And TST was talking about, yes, how some commercials can be off-putting, particularly when a podcast begins with a blast of them, and suggested, what about an Etsy store? And I have to say, I've been thinking about it for these many months, particularly when I look at those cowls I've been making out of the scrap yarn, because essentially they're free. They just cost me my time, and it's little bits of time here and there that I wouldn't be able to use for anything else. So if there's ever going to be an Etsy store, you folks will be the first to know. Let me tell you. But it is a good idea, TST, and I have been thinking about it. In the meantime, I want to thank Metro Rebecca. First, because she has been following me for these many years. And also for her very generous and frothy pitcher of hot coffee. What a very generous thing to do. Thank you so much for that donation. And in that same vein, another long-timer, Steffi Joe, who I have to say, I don't know what we would have done without you at all these fiber retreats, particularly this last one, where you just went above and beyond, kind of proofing my work behind me without making any kind of fuss about it. I'm still grateful for that. And that was a lovely message and a big old generous mug of coffee too. So thank you, ladies. It helps to keep the podcast going. But no, I haven't fallen into the Patreon trap yet. And I don't think I'm going to. I feel really uncomfortable with that and with advertising for the simple reason that both things pressure you to make content. And, I stopped this once when I was having conflicts with the job from Hades. And because of that, I didn't even have the time to seek out good content, let alone their pressure around the fiber retreat. So, I don't ever want to fall into that trap. And at the same time, I do want this to be as free as possible. There is a cost for the upload to Libsyn. And I really thank you because you all have more than compensated for that. And I deeply, deeply appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you, Steffi Joe. Thank you, Metro Rebecca. And TST, thank you, because it's always just wonderful to know you're out there and doing okay. I do love it when people say things like, I've been there since the Prius of Love. I love that. Oh, I love that. Every now and then I do see the Prius of Love. She was sold locally, and she's a very distinctive color. They only made that color in one model year. So I see her roaming around town, and I'm pretty sure that's her. Let's face it, this is cognitive. We all have happy endings here. Meanwhile, the Cognitive Fiber Retreat number 10, the info is right there. It is under the link that says all info is right here. And here is the link. It'll take you over to the information thread on Ravelry. Having said that, I will talk a little bit more about it in the calendar section, but right now we are moving on to what's on my hooks and needles. Speaking of the sock yarn cows from CFR 23, I finally finished number 4. And number 1 again. Yes, the thing about these cowls is I made them thinner from bottom to top than I really needed to. So they've all been expanded. The only one I didn't have to do that to was number 2, because I originally made that 7 inches from beginning to end, bottom to top as it were, and have realized that is the width I want them. And so yes, if I sell anything on Etsy, these guys will definitely be in there, although it was very pleasing to find out that my very good friend Nancy, who is not a fiber person, but one heck of a good chef and a great gardener, Nancy has been yearning for one of these, so she will be getting one. So I keep thinking I must have friends out there who want these things. So she will be getting one of them, but for now, I finished number 4, and you know what that means. Yes, I began number 5. I say that, but you would never believe how much sock yarn I have gone through. It is really pleasing. I just came home with a bag full of odds and ends, and I am most of the way through that bag, to the point where I had to really look at what I had left and say, is this going to be enough to make number 5? So I'm very, very satisfied there. Meanwhile, the stash toss for 2024, 0 skeins in, and believe me, I deserve a lot of love for that, because I made it through Joann's twice and didn't buy anything, let alone any yarn. I will say, they're having one heck of a yarn sale right now. So if you're going to buy acrylics especially, go to Joann's. Now is really the time to hit them if you're going to. And it's always helpful to realize they have some of the cheaper tools of the trade. I mean, they are worthwhile in their own sweet way. But I am well down the leg of the Stash Dive 1 socks. That's Stash Dive 1 because that yarn is from 2010. And Stash Dive 2 hasn't been started yet. That I think is the oldest skein I've got, which I mentioned last episode. But there you can see a lot of the first sock. At this point, I actually just passed the waste yarn for the heel today while listening to a Law and Ethics continuing ed. And so you can see it right there. And it's beautiful. The picture just doesn't do it justice. It is the color of the rocks in Red Rock Country in southern Arizona. It's really phenomenal. Meanwhile, Vestuary 24. Yes, I am actually 3.5 inches into that ribbing, which makes me happy because that much ribbing on a sweater always makes me a little bit crazy. So I go to 4 inches. And I learned a new trick, which is every time I put it down, I keep thinking, now which direction am I going? And the yarn always gets back to front. And I finally realized I have these beautiful little safety pin type clips all over the place. You may remember I ordered like 100 of them when I was making Blanket's own blanket. So they're all over here. So I found one that's green, and of course green means go, and I just put it on the left needle when I stop knitting so that I can always go towards that green clip. Green means go, go that way. So this has made life a lot less painful as I put this down, in between my real life and my knitting episodes. And we're well into that. Meanwhile, the Romule sweater, I've been saying I'm halfway down it, but I am much further than halfway. The pattern in the size I'm making says go to something like 22 3/4 inches or something crazy like that. I looked at it and said, that will be down to my knees. And so I pulled out one of my other Romules that fits beautifully and is also bulky. and measured it. And then I measured all my others, and I realized I've been using the same measurement on everybody, but I haven't put it in my notes in the patterns in Ravelry, so I have fixed that since then. So I am about 12 inches down the body. This is in bulky yarn. I've got about 3 more inches before I go to the ribbing. I'm enjoying this one, but it's one of the heaviest sweaters I've ever made. It's definitely kind of a ski weather sweater, but it looks great. And you can see an interesting picture there. The bottom, of course, is now reaching into the dark brown range with pink highlights from the variegated colored handspun that I've been putting into it kind of irregularly and having a lot of fun with that whole thing. So what I did was I thought, oh, they'd all like to see the floats. So I flipped up the bottom to show you the floats. And you can see, because I'm carrying this yarn all the way across the back, and the floats are 2 stitches long, so you can see that the back side of this is solid floats and the front is very bulky yarn. So this is essentially 2 layers of yarn, and it's extremely warm and I love it. But I am going very slowly on this one because really I'm just saving it for the night times when I want to sit quietly in my master bedroom in my knitting nook in the beautiful green rocker the true love gave me 2 Christmases back now. And you can see the top there is the folded over bottom of the sweater, so you can see the floats. And if you go down to the right, you will see the lighter brown section. And at the very bottom, you've got the folded collar that is in cream and browns with a lot of blue and pink and red color work. Oh yeah, it's a pretty, pretty sweater. So that's where we are on that. No action on my embroidery project. No action on Dizzy Blondes, mainly because I went through my study and through all the bins in my master bedroom and my walk-in closet and said, I have so much yarn that I have spun. And so I'm sort of halting the spinning a little bit and working my way through the bins. And I must say that's gone very well. I took stock and realized that I have emptied one of my biggest bins that has to be about 60 or 70 liters. It's a very big bin. And so that is going to be where I put my cotton strips from stripping down all my fabric for quilting, because I actually need a really big bin because I just found a whole new stash of leftover fabrics from 30 years ago, and they're gorgeous and they're getting stripped down too. And so this is the only container I have, I think, that will hold all of that. And also I'm afraid that that might have had moths in it at one time. I've washed it out, but just to be careful, I'm not putting wool in it. But that empties one of my smaller 55-liter bins and on wheels, and that's where my newest sweaters are going to go. So we're gradually shifting the yarn into sweaters and the yarn from the bins into sweaters in new bins. But it's rather nice. It really is. And yeah, I'm still looking through things for givebackbox.com. I'm still looking at some of my older sweaters and saying they can probably go. So that's kind of wonderful. All that to say, I'm not spinning anything new. You can see a list, or rather, you can see a link to the list of my favorite resources, which are things that I buy to support my knitting. Those are my favorite indie dyers, stitch markers, drop spindles, all that stuff. Basically, the people who supported the goodie bags at CFR 23. There is also a link to my favorite skills and techniques in working yarns. Those are just a few things, but again, these will both take you to Ravelry, to those threads. Now, meanwhile, in the strategy, I know last week I was talking about perfectionism and fixing mistakes, and I want to talk about making reparation, but I hit a really fantastic meme. It's actually a reel, but it's one of those reels where you just stare at the same words while music plays for a few seconds. And it's really good because this is the meme of revenge bedtime procrastination. This meme is attempting to answer the age-old question that I get several times every week from patients, which is, why do I procrastinate? Or its variation, I have to procrastinate. Can you help me get motivated? They're both the same thing. I have heard all of this ascribed to just about every mental health problem. Depression, anxiety, Not psychosis, I'll give them that one, but the manic phase of bipolar as well as the depressive phase, OCD. I mean, people are always going on about this kind of procrastination. And that's a good thing to be talking about here in the perfectionism section, because procrastinators are quite frequently also perfectionists. In other words, procrastination in my book is coming out of anxiety. I can't do this perfectly. This is a very personal thing for me. If somebody's looking over my shoulder, they will see how flawed I am. That's anxiety talking. And this particular meme talks about the people who stay up late at night. I am one of them, who feel safer at night. And it's exactly right on that people stay up late at night. They will tell you if you push enough that they're avoiding phone calls and emails that basically after 5 p.m. and at the latest after about 7, most people are not phoning people or emailing people or texting or anything else for that matter. And so in those hours, the anxious people feel safe. Nobody's going to challenge them or bother them. So what they do is they stay up late at night. What we do, to be honest, we stay up late at night and we're borrowing from the morning. And we're always saying things like, I'm not a morning person, which I've said all my life. And the answer is, sure I am. When I've had enough sleep, if I wake up at 5 a.m., I'm a morning person. I just generally don't have enough sleep because I do need my solid 8 to 9 hours. So anyway, the meme is saying I've discovered the meaning of my life by recognizing that I do revenge bedtime procrastination. That is, I stay up late because nobody will bother me and I get some peace and some relief. Now, when we're talking about procrastination and that kind of anxiety, again, what we're talking about, and I think I've mentioned this before, is actually a totally different skill, and that is time management. Now, there's a lot of faith involved in both these things. In revenge bedtime procrastination, the sufferer believes that by stealing time at night, it'll be okay to lose time in the morning. Now, the skill we're talking about, time management, is also a big act of faith. But it's an act of faith that if I steal little bits of time and use them for things that scare me, I will eventually realize that I have pushed my way well through the things that scare me. So what I'm really telling you is this variation on anxiety and perfectionism, and that is procrastination. Everybody's saying, oh, cure my anxiety or motivate me. That's not your problem. It's not your problem. Your problem is you don't know what else to do, and nothing else has ever worked for you. Oh yeah, there's one more lie you tell yourself. I used to do this one all the time. If I procrastinate, that will build up pressure and I work better under pressure. No, you don't, and you know you don't. You're going to tell me, oh yes, I do, really, I'm the exception. No, you're not. We have a lot of research on this. And I learned this the hard way years ago, back when I was writing one of my master's dissertations in Scotland, where I almost procrastinated myself out of a master's degree. And I really learned from one of my friends who just worked quietly for 3 hours a day, every day, weekends and everything, early in the morning. She would work from about 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then she played the rest of the time. And it was because, she did go to a few classes, but they didn't have many, to be honest. But what she had learned is that you can pretty much do anything in 3 hours a day over 1 year. And I will be honest, I wrote my first doctoral dissertation at Stanford for a PhD, working from 1 p.m. in the afternoon to 4 p.m. modeling on her. And the interesting thing there is when you do that kind of time management, when you schedule a time every day for the same task that you know is going to take months, if not years, you find out that even when you want to keep going, you must stop. So at 4 o'clock, sometimes I'd go till 4:30, but you have to stop while you're hungry, while you still say, oh, I could finish this. I'm really close, that sort of thing. That's going to motivate you to get back there the next day. So most of the time, managing procrastination, sure, you can talk about why you do it, and I'm sure that will satisfy you. Most people are happy to know their reasons for doing things. But we do know in psychotherapy, in mental health, that people come in all the time saying, if only I knew why I do this, I would stop. That isn't true. In fact, a lot of people do what we call the flight from health, which is once they know why they do it, they go, thanks, it's been great talking to you. And they run out of your office without changing, and you hear that they've moved to a different therapist and they're doing the same problem. In other words, they're not really ready to change. It's not about knowing why you do something. It's about knowing how to fix it. It is satisfying to know why you do something, that's true. But that doesn't fix anything. And this is why I do cognitive behavioral therapy. We are right here in the present. I can't get going on my work, I procrastinate. Now, this also brings up not only how do I stop, which is time management, but the related question, how do I get motivated? You have to use your imagination. When you're procrastinating, you are afraid to do something. You will do the work when you are more afraid not to do it than you are of doing it. But to do that, you have to say, well, what's going to happen? What's the worst thing here? If I don't do this work, what will happen? So, for example, if I didn't write my master's disc when I was in Scotland, I'd get thrown out of the country. Oops. Yeah, I needed the university to write that I was making adequate progress so that I could keep my green card. Well, when you look at it that way, if I got thrown out of the country, I was living on my grant at the time, which was very generous. Thank you, Tehran Committee. And if I got thrown out of Scotland, that ended my money. I'd be literally on the street with no job. That's a pretty good motivation to write your dissertation, kids. Same was true at Stanford. Okay, so why is it people feel unmotivated? Because they're not asking themselves what's going to happen. So if I don't do my work, what's going to happen? Bad reviews, and eventually I'm going to lose the job. Do I need the job? Well, I like food. I like paying the mortgage or the rent. Okay, so if you want motivation, frankly, you have to scare yourself sometimes. And people say, oh, no, this is psychotherapy. It shouldn't work out of fear. Fear is actually a pretty good motivator. I'm here to tell you. It's the only reason I go to work every day. I like food. I'd like to eat. I'd like my kid to eat and my husband, And no, I don't think of it directly as fear, but that is very, very far down at the bottom, that I have to work so that we can live right now. And people shy away from that. They go, no, I don't want to think about that. No, that's too dark a thought. Well, at the same time, they're saying, gee, I'm not motivated. Well, sometimes you have to go to the dark side, little Jedi, and examine what's there. But you have to motivate yourself. Motivation isn't something that just comes down the road and jumps in your lap. Motivation is something you have to dig for. And when you have to dig for it, sometimes you're going to have to scare yourself a little bit. So, I'm fine with that. I don't believe in terrifying my patients, but I do ask them, well, what will happen here? What's the worst that can happen if you fail to do this? And it's really surprising to me because they just go into denial. Oh, my boss really likes me, blah, blah, blah. And the answer is any boss is going to fire you if you're not doing your work. Okay, so if you want motivation, you have to go a little bit over into the scary side to get it. And you have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to pop up and motivate you. Motivation isn't just this happy feeling that one day you're driving down the road and you drive through a cloud of motivation. That isn't how it works, folks. So the answer is, if you want to get motivated, think about what's going to go wrong. Now you get on to time management, and time management is not all that bad. You've heard me talk about it a lot, like my version, 15 minutes at a time. And currently I'm using the Hero's Journal as a means of motivating myself, and I'm having a great deal of fun with it, and it's working really, really well. The savings side of it, I'm halfway to my savings goal since December 3rd, and I'm pretty excited about that. And my exercise goal has been going very, very well. So I'm biking every day on my desk bike, or my bike desk, however you want to call it. Okay, so I actually gave you 2 examples of tracking sheets. This is from the Fabulous app. Now, they are on Instagram. I think they call themselves the Fab Story. And these were free on Instagram. So that's why I'm putting them in here. I'm not stealing them. You can see they're branded at the bottom where it says Fabulous. But I wanted you to see these. If you put these together and take out a little bit of the useless stuff, you would have the daily tracking sheet I'm using from the Hero's Journal or the Hero's Journey. I don't want to give that to you because that is a paid thing. They're making money. And, for $5 you can have it anyway by downloading it off the internet, downloading their PDF files. Now, these 2 pages, one is called My Inner Magic, and the other is called My Mindfulness Tracker. They have some really good things. On My Inner Magic, which is the gray one, they give you a place to put the date. They give you a day to put your challenges, which I would call your to-do list or your can-do list. They give you a wake-up time and a bedtime block, which is really nice. So in other words, you're not doing the revenge bedtime procrastination thing. And on the Inner Magic one, it talks about gratitude. It says acts of gratitude. I don't know if I'd call it that, but I would say, what am I grateful for? There's very good research, by the way, that in the morning, if you think of 3 things you're grateful for, you have a better day. That's actually a very strong, consistent outcome of a lot of research. Now, I don't like their little productivity symbols because I don't even understand what they are, and I'm not real big on the affirmation of the day. But if you go to the next one, the yellow one, my mindfulness tracker, again, I think there's a bit of silly on that page, but still, they say some helpful things like the date and a list of things that you can control today and things you might want to do tomorrow, which is nice. I'm sort of looking at it as I read it. I think some of it's a little excessive, that they just look to me like they're filling space. But between the 2 of those tracking sheets, you can get some ideas to make your own tracking sheet, or you can just, copy and paste these and use them over and over again. So what I'm going to say is, if you want to handle procrastination, the secret is you don't. If you want to handle lack of motivation, the secret is you scare yourself a little bit. And then you turn to handling the procrastination with time management. The first secret of time management is to sit down and chart everything you want to do, things you're grateful for, and to problem solve a little bit and to keep yourself to a limited schedule, like 15 minutes at a time for each task, which is what works for me. Okay, moving on. The fluffy books. Well, I haven't started the new season of Father Brown on BritBox, but I can tell you I did read a book called Primroses and Promises by Jodi S. Kilpack, and that's a definite 2 thumbs down. This is someone who seems to be trying to write clean Regency romances. I think Jane Austen might be a little surprised to know that hers might be a bit dirty, but at any rate, these are really boring. I can't tell you. I pushed through to the end, but there's like virtually no plot, really shallow characterization. My thought is that this person wrote a book saying, I'm tired of all those hot sex scenes in Regency romance novels, and I could be okay with that. I mean, Jane Austen doesn't use hot sex scenes. But what's missing here? There's like no tension at all. And it's very cliche. It's very unsatisfying. The characters are about 1 inch deep. And I think this author thinks she's writing more modern versions of Austen. And what I would say she has missed is Jane Austen is very aware that the stakes for her characters are very high. And while she's cracking jokes about it, she is still aware that there's real risk here. There's not really much risk in these books. It's very 21st century. Our heroine, she goes out to be a working woman, even though that will mean she's a servant now and all this sort of thing. And she just assumes she'll just do that for the rest of her life because, Victorian and Regency governesses made no money. It's just really an annoying thing. And if you want something shallow, please go read Jodi S. Kilpack's books. She has a whole series around this one family that are all supposed to be dreadful. And they don't seem especially, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I worked in a prison. I've seen the real thing. I don't know. But I have to tell you, 2 thumbs down on, I think it's, what do they call the Mayfield Family series. Just tedious. If you want to read unsexy Regency, go read some Jane Austen and then watch some of the movies if you want to spice it up. But you can write Regencies without heavy sex scenes, and they're still very readable. I know because I've read Austen. But I have to say, give these a miss. You're wasting your money. Something I really like. Well, this week I'm enjoying the cat memes enormously, so I stuck another one in there. It's 5 black cats looking in through a sliding glass door, and they are saying, hello, we know you're single and over 40. Let us in. Believe me, the temptation is always there. I look at my crabby Minerva and I think maybe we just need another kitten. And then I think Minerva is so happy being the queen of the house. But meanwhile, to give you a little more bite in something I really like. Yes, Minerva, I'm talking about how you bit me tonight in the sweater. Ha ha ha. You didn't get into the flesh, did you? No, you just got a mouthful of blue wool. But anyway, to give this segment a little more bite, I put in the Power Stone Pumice Stone Toilet Bowl Cleaner. Now, not just a toilet bowl cleaner, but these are rectangular pumice stones with a plastic handle sticking out one end. Not big on the plastic, gotta tell you honestly, but these things work great. I have given up on our toilets. I've been cleaning them with white vinegar, and that works well, but we got down to a level of hard water stain we couldn't get out. So I bought these. You can see I have the picture of them from Amazon, and I have the link in the show notes. But I bought these. They come in a 2-pack for about $20. These were great. I put 5 minutes into the toilet in our master suite, and in 5 minutes it was halfway there. It came so clean so fast. The trick is you keep the stone wet. You just keep dipping it into the clean toilet water and rubbing. If you let the stone dry out, you get nowhere. Okay, now that everybody's grossed out, I want you to know I wore heavy-duty rubber gloves to do this, which I wear when I'm cleaning the bathroom because I'm allergic to all the cleansers. And so it is not as horrifying as it seems. What you do, you clean your toilet the way you normally would. You clean the bowl and everything. And then you get those gloves on and get in there with the pumice stone. I have to say this worked fantastic. Both our toilet bowls look deeply recovered. It's really satisfying. Put a lid on it. Well, I'm still doing the Plum Deluxe Advent Calendar. And today's entries are a tribute to COVID because I had both of these with me when I was at the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference when I was living up in my lofty suite in the Sheraton. And the Cherry Berry Plum Herbal I thought was phenomenal. The smell, the taste. And that's day 14. And then day 15 is the Welsh Dream Herbal, which I thought was faint, weak, and couldn't taste it. Yeah, wrong. I did have the symptoms of COVID. I'm so horrified by this, but it is what it is. Turns out the Cherry Berry Plum Herbal I still quite like, even without COVID. It's a fantastic flavor. The fragrance is amazing. This is a rooibos tea. It has apple pieces, cherry pieces, plum pieces, some blue malva flower, and some cherry and plum essences. Warning, it does contain ground up stone fruit, so you got to be careful there. I haven't had any problem with it, but if you're allergic to that, you should know. And this is fabulous. One I underplayed was the Welsh Dreams Herbal, and I'm so glad that I bought an ounce of this to try again because this is in the regular rotation, unlike the Cherry Berry Plum. So you can get this anytime you want, as far as I know, at Plum Deluxe. This is honey bush tea, lemon peel, peppermint, and vanilla essence. This stuff is great. This is just a light after-dinner tea when you want a little mint to settle your stomach. But it's more than just a plain mint. It's just got an extra little zing of flavor. And I don't remember who it was, which one of you wrote to me and said, that's actually your favorite. And they were saying, like, you really didn't like it? Yeah, I really didn't have a sense of taste. Oh, man, I hope I wasn't giving people COVID. At least I distanced, except in that line at Starbucks, which may be where I got the COVID. Anyway, but these are two solid recommendations. Day 14, the Cherry Berry Plum Herbal, and day 15, the Welsh Dreams Herbal. I do believe, by the way, that there is a caffeinated black tea version of the Cherry Berry Plum, and I have to say I am going to go find it one of these days. And that's pretty much what I've got to say. I've really done most of the blather already. I'm just getting on with the projects. Nothing much has changed. It's been pouring rain today, so I'm hoping that tomorrow or Thursday morning I will get outside and hammer in some more pins and get more of the new front sidewalk laid out. It's looking really nice. And it's a little crookedy. I didn't level the ground as I should have. But you know what? It's so nice not to walk in the mud there next to the pathway that is covered by all the plants. And I still have to get outside and trim the plants. And I have so many things on my can-do list right now. And you can see it if you look at that list. But not much is going on. We've had 2 solid days of rain with sort of spotty rain at the night time. This is much better than I understand the rest of you are getting. You're out there in blizzard country. But I have to say, it hasn't even been that cold here. It's just the rain, and we really needed it. So there's some good news. The dogs are inside tonight, and they're both real quiet because they don't want to be out in it. And I haven't been doing much else. I keep thinking about going back to Project G. every time I do that, I realize that means I'm going to have to pull some boxes into the house and pack some more things for givebackbox.com. And I kind of need to stop on that. I kind of feel a little overwhelmed by all of that I've given away so much stuff. And I'm not missing any of it, but I'm really shocked at how I still feel kind of cluttered in. But, after 6 cartons of clothes, you need to kind of calm down and reconsolidate yourself a bit. So I haven't really gone for anything. And yes, I am still mulching the plants with my used tea leaves. That brings us on to the calendar. As I have told you, Yarnopoly and Second Saturday Stitchers are meeting up on the second Saturday of each month here in the Santa Clarita Valley. You can find them on Facebook. They both have their individual pages. They're both heavily crochet oriented, which I find refreshing, I must say. But they're cool with anybody doing anything. And again, the Sit and Stitch at the Joanne Darcy Library in Canyon Country is also going on the second and fourth Saturday of each month, and I believe that's 9 to noon. In the meantime, CFR 10 will be on Saturday, September 28th, 2024 at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia, California, right off the I-5. I also have taken Friday the 27th off because I've realized that I blew into CFR 23 exhausted, and I really want a day not to do that. And Loretta, if you're listening, that means we'll be carpooling again. Just come on down to the farm and we'll go across together. In the meantime, though, there is Romule coming up. That will be somewhere between December 21st and January 1st. I haven't yet made those plans. And I believe also I'm going to take a day in February and go to Universal and meet friends. So that's nice too. Having said all this, Minerva gets the last word, and tonight she's really living this, so I put the pictures in. And her last word is possession is 9/10 the law. And you can see her there possessing my chair. The way you know she's possessing it, her right foreleg is stretched out in front of her, and it's wrapped over the edge, and she's holding on. That is how Minerva shows possession. She has done it since she was a little tiny baby. It is her one distinctive gesture of I own this. And you can see that I did get into the rocking chair in my bedroom before she did, but she is sitting in the rocking chair in my lap possessing that too. So Minerva wants you to know, possession is 9/10 the law. If you want something, get there early and park yourself and don't let anybody move you. Tonight when I tried to, I was joking about it earlier, she bit right through last year's Romule sweater. Fortunately, it didn't leave holes. I'm looking at the spot. But this sweater is so thick, all she got was a mouthful of variegated blue wools. Hope it tasted good. However, as I say this, she is in the captain's chair. I am on the love seat. So she is possessing everything, and she has no regrets. So, never forget, kids, possession is 9/10 of the law if you are a cat. In the meantime, everybody, please remember, we are a community. Go get all your shots. Go take care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of the community. But when you take care of yourself appropriately, you protect the community. Protecting the community is a means of protecting yourself. With that in mind, please, everybody, stay safe. Take care of each other. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.